So welcome everybody who's just coming in. I went ahead and got started. I had no idea there was going to be a flood as soon as I did that. But I'm Beth Carroll and we're rolling because I got a lot to cover. Okay, all right, I got my 10-minute warning. So now I want to ask a question, and David, you had talked at the beginning about how your manager led with trying to get the drivers to take the good with the bad and to be open-minded about this. I have been doing compensation design and compensation plan changes for 20 years. I started out, my first 10 years I was with a big HR consulting firm doing sales comp changes. So I was basically designing sales incentive plans for companies that had 200 plus salespeople, manufacturing, banking, insurance, you name it. One time I stood up in front of a room probably about 3 times this size, full of Bosch power tool salesmen, and was telling them what their new compensation plan was going to be. You can probably figure the demographics that I was dealing with there in terms of Bosch power tool salesmen that I was telling their new change. I would take that every day of the week and twice on Sunday to communicating driver plan changes, okay? So this is the toughest group that I have ever dealt with. I have been cussed at, I have been yelled at, I have been threatened. I had one where we were rolling it out to a big group of drivers, and we had painstakingly made sure really nobody was going to be negatively impacted by this. I mean, the company was so passionate about making sure their drivers were going to be taken care of that we had done the modeling backwards and forwards, and there were 4 drivers that were going to be potentially negatively impacted if they didn't change how they drove. It was really a performance issue. And the driver managers thought they could get them through that, coach them through it, okay? So we had gone through 6 examples of different routes and how the routes were going to pay more under the new plan, okay? And a driver was sitting in the front row, not one of the 4, okay? So not one of the 4 that had already been talked to and coached, right? And on the 6th example, showing them how they're going to make more money, he threw his keys on the table and he said, "This is bullshit," you know? And I'm like, okay, exactly how are you upset that you've just showed you how you're going to make more money? And that's just how they are about it. So a lot of them think, and it's not just drivers, I don't want to make it sound that way, it's just that they have it so ingrained. I had one company tell me they think the drivers have the rates tattooed on their arms. And so if you're taking something away, if you're changing it, and what we're talking about here almost always involves moving something from one bucket into another bucket. And so the perception of that is if the one bucket is going down, that I'm losing money. So I want to hear from these guys in terms of, you know, how have you handled driver pay changes?
Well, we've done the same thing. We, you know, ran it side by side so that we could show each driver what they would have made on the old pay, or what they currently made and what they would have made on the new pay plan. And we've actually had drivers that were going to take a pay cut based off of the old pay plan and the way it was set up. We had one individual that was going to take over a $30,000 a year pay cut to do the same job. Now, unfortunately, through leadership that was there prior to me and this new pay plan and stuff, they allowed it to get out of control, and the person was doing dock deliveries to a prison of 5,000 cases a week, and they were getting regular full case pay to bait. And actually, when you got to the prison, they unloaded the truck for you. You didn't have to get a pallet jack in there. So that person was making about $110,000 a year to work 30 hours a week. They were actually making more than the president of the company, I think, at the time. So we did sit that individual down and told them, hey, you know, you're going to take about a $30,000 a year pay cut. You're still going to make a really good wage for what you do and the work that you do, but we wanted to let you know up front. And the person agreed and said, you know, yes, I still want my job. It's still a really good job. I still really make good money, and I'm still going to be done in 35 hours a week. But there can be times where it does negatively impact people, and I think the key is to identify those people and have those conversations with them, but also to make the drivers understand the pay plan. The first company I went to that had the pay plan, you'd ask all the different senior drivers and stuff that actually went from hourly onto the pay plan. How does it work? And they didn't know. They just knew that they made more money, their hourly wage was higher, and they were happy with it. That wasn't good enough for me, so I went to the payroll guy and I asked him, how does it work? And he kind of explained it. And I was new to computers, and I actually went home and got my computer out and built me an Excel spreadsheet, and I started figuring out how to maximize my pay. Yes, I can only earn so much because there's only so many cases and stuff on the truck, but if I can cut that time down to here, then that inflated my hourly rate. So when I went on vacation, I was getting a higher hourly rate on vacation or taking a day off. So I think it's important for drivers to actually understand all the components of it and explain it to them so they understand it.
And the fewer components you have, the easier that is to do. Yeah. I don't know if you had a question.
Yeah, just to talk a little bit more about compensation. In terms of bonuses, I've heard of different companies, different fleets doing safety bonuses. Have you had experience with this? What's your thoughts on it? And what type of metrics do you put to manage it?
We haven't had a safety bonus. A lot of our safety is actually geared around, we have a big banquet at the end of the year and a driver of the year type thing, and you have to be accident free and all that kind of stuff to even be a part of it, but not actually a bonus that got paid out on a check weekly or quarter.
We have a yearly, but it's every quarter. Every quarter it's paid out, and it used to be for the whole year. And if something happened in January and you hurt your back, then you wouldn't get any of the bonus. Now you just don't get that first quarter, but if you do good the rest of the other 3 quarters, you can get a certain dollar value it is.
Got it. And that's what I was meaning by incentive pay earlier. I'm glad you brought up the term bonus. I've actually purged that word from my vocabulary because it has such negative implications for sales reps that I actually don't use the word bonus ever. I use incentive compensation, but that's what I meant was bonuses, quarterly bonuses, something like that, based on safety, based on time, based on fuel usage, something along those lines.
And just what are the metrics for safety? What are the criteria?
No accidents, no injuries.
There's nothing.
But actually somebody came up to my booth and asked a very interesting question about that. And they said, how do you make that safety bonus so it doesn't just be a negative, right? So you're not just saying you have $1,000 per quarter that you lose, right, if you have an accident. And instead I said you can just simply phrase it that once you've accumulated, however you want to phrase it in terms of 100 hours or whatever miles or cases delivered, you put something out there that says, when you've accumulated that much accident-free, you get $250. And then you accumulate another chunk accident-free and you get $250. Of course, you're going to do the math so that you end up in the same place either way, right? So that you would expect them running a typical quarter. If you wanted the pay to be $1,000 a quarter, that you would figure it out one way or the other. But that, from a psychology perspective, it's much better for people to think about I'm gaining something rather than I'm starting from this level and I can only go backwards. Okay, you want to have them have the possibility of having positive payout.
On the comment of the accident injury, it's chargeable accidents. So you could have somebody run into your truck and you're still going to get yours if it wasn't your fault. So it's chargeable.
Yeah, absolutely. Accidents. Yeah, absolutely. So it's preventable accidents, chargeable accidents, things that they're at fault for. You got a question over here?
How do you determine vacation or PTO pay both with hourly and then with your type of system?
Ours is it's on a 13-week average broken down by day. So if you're averaging 257 a day when you go on vacation, you get that for every day you've taken.
I would prefer to actually see it over a 52-week average, just because if I know I'm going on vacation in July, I can inflate my hourly wage prior to July. So I would much rather see it over a 52-week average.
I agree. I think doing over a long period of time, whether it's 52-week, a calendar year or rolling 12 months, or based on their anniversary date, you need to have something where you've got a longer period of time. We are out of time. My monitor is telling me that, but I would be happy to.
Could I say one thing that was missed?
And we'll take more questions if you want to stay and ask more questions. Okay. That's fine too. But you can feel free to go.
The 30-minute break. The 30-minute break has been a problem because drivers they try to find a way to work through the break. You know, after so many hours, you're supposed to take a 30-minute break, and that is the one thing that it's tough because you're trying to discipline them for it, but at the same time, they're saying you're not paying me to sit down for 30 minutes, and so anyway, I just don't believe in that rule regardless. So for our industry, I think that's built for over the rate.
All right, question in the back. Come on up.
Regarding driver psychology, I don't think you guys have had any experience with having to pay driver bonuses to hire. But if you do, what does that do to your current driver force if you're putting $5,000 or $10,000 bonuses out there? How does that psychology?
Personally, I hate them. That's because it just becomes, it's a gaming system for them to try to jump to get to the next highest offer. And they'll stay as long as they have to do the buyout, whatever it is they have to do to get the sign-on bonus, and then they'll go to the next one. But I'm going to let these guys answer because they've had to deal with recruiting.
We don't do any of that. We do actually on the recruiting side only existing employees that are drivers that refer. We have a referral program that they can earn dollars if someone comes aboard, but we don't have a bonus for coming on board.
Yeah, referral bonuses are fine. Those are absolutely fine.
We're doing referral bonus as well.
But it really, when this industry started, the for-hire carriers started going crazy with the sign-on bonuses, and it just made me cringe because I knew it was going to eat itself, right? It's like basically a snake eating its own tail. I mean, you just run out. You run out. There's nothing you can do. You can't one-up it. And they had gotten to the point a couple of years ago where they were doing like $10,000 sign-on bonuses.
$25,000 in Omaha, Nebraska.
$25,000.
$25,000 is one. That's the biggest I've seen so far. Also,
The hooks that are attached. Is that Werner? Who's doing it?
No, that's a distributor.
Oh, that's a distributor.
That's
Okay.
a distributor. We met with a distributor and we drove through town. They had a $12,500 billboard through town. They had a couple. We said, "Wow, it's really something." I said, "It's not right anymore. Now it's $25,000."
Wow.
So then he had to give everybody else a raise.
Right, yeah,
You've had experience with what that does to the morale.
Plus, think about who you're going to get, right?
And the animal it creates.
You're not going to get people who are going to really be there to stick around for the long haul.
They're going to stick around just long enough
Just
to
long
get
enough
that
to get it,
and then jump to somebody else.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if you got two companies that are willing to give you $12,000 and you only have to be there 6 months, you can inflate your income by $24,000. And if the shortage is that bad and it's a trained driver, you're going to hire them back. So they might leave you for 6 months and then come back in 6 months as soon as their limit's up over there. But you're not going to really get an employee that's going to stick with you long term.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any